Hey everyone, welcome to the Vienna Whyte Roundtable Season 1, Episode 20. I'm your host, Millie Rouge from the band Vienna Whyte here in Edmonton, Alberta. This roundtable is a YEG Music production, and today we have 3 guests from all over the globe. I first want to introduce you to our first guests, well, the 2 from our band Collision Course. Can you guys go around and kind of say your name and where you're from?
I'm Anton Schindler. I'm from Dawson Creek, BC, now Vancouver, BC.
Awesome. And Brad?
Yeah, so Brad Masiotra. I'm originally from London, Ontario. Now I'm in Vancouver, BC with the band.
Beautiful. And Sean, aka Stealth, can you introduce yourself as well?
Hi, I'm Sean. I'm Stealth, otherwise known as Stealth. I'm from Birmingham in the UK, but I also live in London.
Okay, awesome. So I kind of want to start off today with just chatting about your guys' music careers, because you obviously are in different locations. So I always find it very interesting to kind of dive into the world of where you come from and where your music scene is. So I want to talk about Collision Course first. Can you guys, both of you, just tell me a little bit about your band and kind of how you guys came to be a band and how it all started?
Yeah, for sure. Anton, go.
Yeah. I'll start
you kick it off.
Yeah, so I started the band in 2016 in my hometown, and I tried for, I think, 2 to 3 years, did a little tour through British Columbia and Alberta and all that too, and released an EP, and it just kind of was going nowhere because I was in such a small town. As much as I wanted to dream things would go well, it didn't have a big population. There was one bar you could play in the town kind of thing. And then so I moved to Vancouver, and that's when I met Brad and Jeff and TJ. There were a couple people here and there that helped for a while, and they were great. And we just ended up with this lineup, and it's going really good now. We're working with a producer and all that for the first time. So yeah, no, it's going pretty well, I'd say, aside from being stuck inside and on hold. Yeah,
of course. And Brad, how did you come to be into the band from being from all the way from Ontario?
Yeah, so I've actually I've lived out in BC now for about 5 years or so. But I actually met Anton. I just responded to an ad when I had some free time available. I've been played in bands before in Ontario, and then had to put it on the back for a bit, and then kind of started getting back into, my guitar playing and stuff. And then, kind of kept following up on Anton, and then, we just met one day, and I think I just ripped some little guitar lick, and you're just like, yeah, do you want to join? And I was just like, yeah, let's do it.
One solo, and that was it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you guys for sharing. That's really awesome to hear your journey.
No worries.
And Stealth, can you tell us about your journey and how you kind of came to your musical journey of where you are now?
Yeah, well, I kind of originally started playing terrible pubs and clubs when I was a kid, very young. And then I ended up going to college to learn a bit, this, that, and the other. But then met some guy who was writing with Pixie Lott and writing with other people, and I started writing with him, and met his manager, and then basically ended up slowly learning my craft, and got bored of writing for other people and bored of writing dance music because it was all the same, and locked myself away in a studio with a friend of mine, and started writing music that I actually wanted to make. And then my first EP came out, and it came out to absolutely no acclaim. Nobody fucking listened to it. But then there was one song on it that landed on Suits in the US, but I think it's filmed in Canada. I think it's
it is.
I think so. Toronto, I believe.
Yeah, Toronto, I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then literally my life changed. I was actually sleeping on my friend's floor at the time because I couldn't afford to live anywhere, and then that happened and completely changed my life. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of how I got into it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was actually Instagram creeping your profile, and I saw the Suits post, and that's really, really awesome. That's really cool. And it's kind of crazy to think that I'm imagining the song you released was when Meghan Markle was still on the TV show.
Yeah,
Now
you know,
she's just
like,
royalty, so
that's the reason she married into our royal family is basically because of me. So I'd say that. But then, you know, but then she left. So
of course.
you know, not everything good lasts.
Yeah, exactly. That's amazing. All right. Thank you guys for sharing. I really appreciate that. I want to dive into our topic of the day. And when I was looking at both of your profiles, I noticed kind of a common theme. Obviously, you guys are different in genres and you're different in locations, of course. But I really wanted to talk about the essence of being in a band. Now, Stealth, I've seen on your Instagram, you do have a backing band. Are they typically like a for hire band, or are they your full-time band?
So originally when I had the guitarist was a collaborator, so I wrote with him a lot, but he didn't want to be in the band. So it ended up being me, and we had a few of his mates, and we had quite a regular lineup that would end up as my band. But then over time, we've ended up being far more session player based. But in saying that, I do like using the same people to play on my stuff. Yeah, so sure. I like to keep it as bandy as possible. But at the same time, if somebody can't turn up to the gig for whatever reason, they can dip out.
Swap out. Absolutely. So Collision Course, I know Brad kind of explained how he came to be into the band. I know you have two other members though. How did those two others kind of find their way into your guys' group?
Pretty much the exact same, because when I first moved down here, I was just putting out ads because I didn't know anyone. And sheer luck, first time I met Jeff, our drummer, he was the first drummer we met with. And yeah, it was amazing. And at that time, I did have, there was a guy named Rob and a guy named Adam in the band, and they were the guitarist and bassist, same thing, kind of ad. And then Adam went out, and then TJ was the first bassist I met, and aside from Adam, and then it just really worked out, and really sheer luck.
I think it's really hard to find, like on your first try, it's hard to find a really good drummer. It's also hard to find a really good bass player. So that's pretty amazing luck that you just kind of cruised into it and they all just kind of worked out.
Yeah.
Do you guys think, now I'm curious to kind of know, because I'm curious because you put a ad kind of through to find your bandmates. Do you think band chemistry is important? Why or why not?
Oh, completely. I think you can go without it, because obviously there's big bands that have worked together for years and just hate each other. But I feel like at the stage we're at, when we're starting out, when it's all drive and work and be writing together, we really need to maintain that relationship to be together as a band, and we're all friends, right? So
right. That's really awesome.
I think the audience can feel that as well. They can feel that the band that don't like you. But even though I don't have a band, that's the reason why I like having people that I play with regularly. Because people can feel when you haven't got a clue what somebody else is going to do, or what they,
it's a vibe, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was actually going to ask you, Stealth, because this is interesting that we have both perspectives, because it does really add more to the conversation. Like I imagine when you have a band, you feel a little bit more connected than when you kind of have like a brand new session player playing like your original songs.
Yeah. I think if you've got, I had a gig recently, not that recently, but it wasn't far off in the past. And I had a majority session band in, and the only player who played with me before was the drummer, which I think made a difference, because the drummer is, I don't know if, most people, he's the most important person in the band.
Yeah.
More important than the singer, more important than anyone. The drummer is the most important person. And I was lucky that he played with me before, because all of a sudden the energy that he brought and everything pulled all the other session players in. However, I have had a gig where I've had a session, all the other two have been, I usually play with drums, bass, and a guitarist who also plays keys. And I've also had the other two normal band members and a depth drummer. And all of a sudden, everything's changed.
Yeah.
Like, you know, all of a sudden, the vibes changed. It's really, I think finding a not saying anything to musicians, find a drummer that will regularly play on your gigs. He'll make your other session musicians sound better. So that's my own personal opinion.
Yeah, totally. I think it definitely makes a difference for sure.
Huge.
Yeah. I mean, I've only played I typically I have a full-time band now, but there have been times where I've played with session players, and I think it's really hard to translate exactly how you feel. And I think this also can kind of come into play when you're recording in a studio and you're working with a brand new producer. And it's lucky that you kind of had that Stealth, where you had that connection with yours. But I think a lot of the times it's hard to explain your exact vision and what's going on up here, and you're trying to kind of translate it, but it's not working so well. So I think that can be tough.
I'll also make sure try and make sure that the people who are finding depths, the ones who I usually use, right. The musicians pull in people that they really respect as well, though. So it's not like just some random session player.
Yeah.
Like if you can make, because at the end of the day, you trust your bass player and your guitarist as much as anyone else. You need to make sure that they bring somebody in that they trust, and 9 times out of 10 they're going to be half decent. They're going to be good.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I'm curious to know, because both of your bands, actually, you guys have different genres. I'm curious to know what your band style is like, and do you think it's difficult to find an exact sound when you have like a 4-piece? I kind of want to start this off with Collision Course. When you guys have a 4-piece band member, when there's 4 of you, do you find it's harder to kind of zone in on one sound, or do you think it's kind of like collectively you all kind of have the same idea of what you should sound like and what you want to write like and what you want to play like, etc.?
Yeah, I think for the most part, like we have a general consensus of what direction we're going, and usually it'll be kind of one of us will kind of bring some sort of melody or riff or something to the equation first, and then we collectively all kind of view it and say, is this something that sounds kind of in our wheelhouse? Is this something that Jeff's drums will go behind nice, or will a lead riff kind of rip really good over this, or can we build a good vocal melody? I think for the most part we're pretty good together in the sense that there's no hurt feelings or something. If someone's like, well, no, this just doesn't sound like it's up our alley.
Yeah, we did that in our last writing session. We were writing a song and we were like, no.
Like an hour into it, we're like, it's just not working.
That's good that you can pull out right away and figure that out rather than continuing to write it.
It took a while. Like originally it was really hard to find our own sound, and I think that's working with our producer Tommy Mack. He's really shown us like how to find our sound and really how to songwrite. He's been helping us out a lot with that, because he, as much as he's a producer, he's also like, aside from in the studio, he's being kind of a mentor to us and helping us out a lot with that kind of stuff. So absolutely, producers can have a major effect on your sound and just kind of steering you in the right direction, I find sometimes. And it's amazing if you can find, because I've worked with multiple producers, but it's interesting when you find one that really like understands you and really hones in on what you want to sound like. Because when you have one that doesn't hone in, it's like, it's not fun. Not a good time. I can imagine
really hard
it's not that fun.
And Stealth, I was curious to know, are you kind of the forefront of your band that writes most of the lyrics and the melodies? I know you said you work with a guitar player that you kind of collaborate with as well.
So I'm kind of a standalone artist. So it's what I'll tend to do. It's very similar to the other guys. It's quite actually interesting hearing how they work as a band, because it sounds like every writing session I go into, I go in with an idea or with something that I want to write for me. And then usually another top liner will come in and tell me that it's terrible and they'll write a better song. but and I sing it. But because I'm on my own. I find that it's been easier to find a sound, but at the same time, you end up working with so many different producers. Whereas I'm a bit envious of the lads where they have one guy that they get to go through who gets to target them, and a bit like George Martin with the Beatles, where he goes, "Nah, lads, you're going off on one." And I probably think it's probably one of the biggest criticisms of my arts career. If you go through my Spotify, it's a little bit all over the place stylistically. But
yeah, that's kind of how you learn, right? Like, I think for myself, even I went from being singer-songwriter, like super ballad type of songs, to going to, I want to do indie pop with like a hint of electric. So I think it definitely can help to kind of grow through that process. And it's not always the most fun and glamorous process, but sometimes you kind of have to find your sound, right?
I think what is really important in general with everybody, whether you're an artist or whether you're a band or whatever, is finding a regular collaborator. I found it with my friend Ross, who is my guitarist, who I wrote my biggest song Judgment Day with, and I write loads with him. But if you can find one person that you can, and the other thing, if you find that one person who is your collaborator that you go through a lot, whether you write something with another producer or whether you write something with another writer, you can always pass it through their channel as well. And if they go, "Mate, this doesn't sound like you at all," then you maybe take that advice on and change it slightly.
Absolutely. I think I totally agree with that, because I think now that I'm in like Vienna Whyte, we kind of recently formed our band. But it's really nice having that second person, or even just that second or third or fourth band member, to really help you with that process. Because it can be really hard when you're songwriting and you're like, I don't really know where I'm going with this. This feels like it's going off track.
I was going to actually ask the lads. I was actually going to ask the lads that. I was going to say, because so obviously with being in lockdown, this is the first time in a long time I've had to actually write on my own without going into sessions and stuff like that. For you guys, do you miss the camaraderie and the co-writing aspect?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
But also like, how are you guys? Are you guys finding a way of working around it? I mean, I've got a way of working around it slightly, but how are you finding that aspect?
Yeah, it's hard. Obviously, we're right at the point, we have 3 singles that we want to release and we want to film music videos for. So we were right at that stage of doing a whole big production and filming these.
Yeah, video. I'm saying I'm on a label at the moment, and they're like, "Oh, we'll film this video," and I'm like, "How?"
Yeah, you can't even get a crew together, right?
Yeah.
So that really sucks. But we're still talking. We're thinking of doing, lots of bands are doing that thing where they record them playing separately and line it up. We were thinking of doing some acoustic stuff like that, just trying to keep the content up and all that, and keep our viewers happy and all that. And we're trying to do that, but obviously it is hard because we live in the same city, but we're still not seeing each other. Like it's a 15-minute drive, but no risk, right? You want to listen
close,
to
but so
everyone.
Far away.
We're not going to our jam space currently. We held off that for a while because we had a space with lockout and all that, but we pulled out of that for a while just because we're all kind of up in the air with what's going on. So
absolutely. I think too, like with my bandmate and myself, we've done a FaceTime songwriting call, but it's really tricky. Like, it's not easy to do. And I don't know if you guys have tried doing like a Zoom call or like a songwriting virtually, but it just doesn't feel the same.
We did some Skype calls discussing. We're actually going to use this Zoom app. This is our first time using it.
Awesome.
We're going to try that out too, but Yeah, and
So
we
if
also
you-
record stuff.
Yeah, you just miss out on
Sorry, what was that?
Oh no, go ahead. Go.
I was going to say, so I use Skype, but there's an app called Loopback. You do have to pay for it, but basically you can, whatever you've got on your door, for people that don't know, logic, able to pay your door through your like Skype, Zoom, whatever. Hence why I explained to you that it's quite cool. But what I found was it's made my sessions so much smoother. You get that instant feedback. It's hard. It's still hard doing sessions from scratch where, say, for example, I don't know, say if Anton had a riff and then Brad had a bass line and then I had a top line, that's still quite difficult and it doesn't work as easily. However, if we were writing to track, so if somebody had already written a track or an idea and they went, this is what we should write over, and you have two people writing lyric and melody, all of a sudden that makes it very, very quite easy because you can get instant feedback of what person's doing. So that's what I found doing. Writing from scratch, nightmare. Top lining, quite easy.
Yeah,
a little bit easier.
Yeah, that loop back sounds really good because because I have all the recording gear and I'll make random stuff up, but it's hard to show because some of us don't have audio interfaces right now, right? So.
Loopback audio is great. It's just really complicated. Like, basically what I do is I've got loopback audio set up, but then I have sorry, this might be like proper geek chat. What output do you have, like UAD or like Focusrite or?
So I have a Tascam 16x8.
Okay, so but you have like a direct out which goes through your computer, yeah. Cool. So basically, all I do is I reroute my master output from my UAD that goes through my computer, and then that goes into my Skype.
Yeah.
And basically, so they get my keys, my guitar, everything that's going into my sound card goes into Skype essentially, or through my door.
That's perfect.
Through my
that's
door
sweet.
into Skype.
That's really cool. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome.
Sorry for geeking and boring everyone out.
That is okay.
I don't work for Loopback. I'm not making any money off of it.
This is not a sponsored ad, I promise. That's fantastic. Now I'm curious to know your guys' opinion. When do you think a band or an artist, even a solo artist, when do you think they're ready to start playing shows and releasing content? What steps do you think maybe a band or an artist has to take before they're getting there? So I want to kind of start this off with Collision Course and then work our way back to Stealth with this.
That's a tricky one.
Yeah. I just kind of went into it at a young age because I used to do solo stuff, and I've played some horrible gigs. It's a lot of trial and error, and I wouldn't say it's horrible because of the venue or anything. There's been a couple of those, but I would say it's because you mess up so bad, right? Or you're not prepared and you don't know like how to do it. And there's not really like any courses or any kind of books you look up on how to perform as a performer, right? And there's a lot of stuff you need to prep. But I would say for putting content out, check with people around you, especially other musicians, and see what they think. Especially for songs, I should have done a bit more of that before I put out some early stuff, right? But yeah, no, just trial and error. And especially with performing, I think as much as you want to make a good debut, unless you're not fully sure about it, when are you ever going to be, really, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
You kind of find out as soon as you hop on that stage if you're ready. But
I think that's the best way to do it too. Trial by fire.
Completely.
Unfortunately, sometimes you can go through some embarrassing sets, but it is definitely the best way to kind of learn through. Now, Stealth, what's your kind of opinion and ways that you've learned when you're ready, or how do you know as an artist when you're really ready to debut yourself?
I think I agree with you guys. I think get out live, especially get out and make as many mistakes as you possibly can as early as you can. I think I'll be honest, personally, I didn't play live enough early on. I think if you can go out and play to people, get fans that love you from day one, they will still love you, when you're putting out, your greatest hits album. You need to go out there and do that. Content is slightly different. I agree with Alan. You've got to make sure that you look at what people are connecting with. If people are connecting with people doing covers, then do a few covers, put them out. If people aren't, if people want to hear original songs, and put them out. If people want to see you dancing like a twat on, like, I don't know, then dance like a knobhead on TikTok. You've got that content is slightly different to playing live. I think there is no point where it's too early to do live music.
Yeah. With
content, you have to be slightly more careful, because once you post it, it's there forever.
Right. Yeah. And that kind of image is set out there, even if you don't want to be that.
Follow what's important. Mm-hmm. Follow what's happening, because you will get more followers and things will happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
Don't do something stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's all about those impressions, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's so true. Now, my last question for you guys before we head off here today, what tips would you recommend an artist on how they can really be the best band they can be, and how they kind of get to that point where they're ready as a band to really get out there and start releasing music or playing live or kind of starting their social media content? What kind of tips would you guys have? I want to start with Collision Course on how a band can really get to that point.
Work hard. Yeah.
Yeah. All about the foundation.
Yeah. Sit there for hours and hours playing through your music until you know it like yourself. Like, it's an extension of you. You want to know it like that, right? So I think it's just a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think with that, like, make sure like you're enjoying what you're doing. Like, you're finding the sounds you want to hit. You're enjoying the music you're playing with, the group you're playing with. That all kind of adds to it. You have that kind of stuff going for you. You play a live show, like the vibe's good. You got high energy, like all that stuff kind of plays a big role in kind of the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And Stealth, kind of what tips would you give an artist or a band to kind of really get themselves prepared before they start to really debut themselves?
It's pretty much the same stuff. I think it's be good at the stuff that takes no talent. Practice, like the lad said, turn up on time, be a pleasure to work with. Yeah. Because I've worked with so many people who are far more talented than I am, yet they end up falling off the map because they don't have the work ethic or the, and it's so non rock and roll and so not sexy to say that. But it's true. If you're going to make, the other thing is as well, I think what I would say about to people who are trying to get into this job is don't expect to be fucking Nirvana or Oasis or Lewis Capaldi or be those. Don't expect to be those. I know I've made a jump from Nirvana, Oasis to Lewis Capaldi. also very 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 patriarchal there. The Spice Girls, the female bands as well. So like, I just think making it isn't being a global success. Making it is making money, and if you are making money and you are being able to, if you can sustain your life as a professional musician and you don't have to go and work in Mackey's, then that's McDonald's in England, by the way.
Okay. I didn't know for sure, so thank you for clarifying.
You don't have to go and do a second job, and you're making a professional living out of doing music, then you've made it.
Yeah.
That's the important thing, because I have to remind myself that all the time when I look at people who are doing far better than me. you know, I'm doing okay. So, you know, you just have to, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's some really great advice. I really love the stuff that you said. That's really amazing.
Yeah, completely.
All right, everyone. That is actually all the time that we have for today. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for coming on and joining me today. It was actually really inspiring hearing all the things you guys had to say. So before we log off, can you guys just quickly, I'll kind of give you guys the heads up, but can you guys just tell me where people can find you and anything else you want to mention before we head off here? So let's just start with Stealth. We'll start with you.
I'm Stealth on Spotify, Apple Music, and everything. You'll find a photo of me looking miserable in a bright shirt, pretty much on all of them. On Instagram, Stealth Music UK, Stealth Music UK on pretty much everything. And my newest single, Other Lives, is out now. That's on all platforms. Check it out, like it. If you don't like it, don't tell anyone. If you do like it, share it with everyone.
Awesome.
And by the way, thank you very much for having me. I've really enjoyed today.
So for main updates, we go through Instagram quite a bit at Collision Course Music. We're doing some new releases soon, so hopefully those will be out on all streaming platforms once we can work out a release.
Awesome. So make sure you guys are following them so when they do release their content, you guys are the first people to know. So my name is Millie Rouge. I am the host of the Vienna Whyte Roundtable Chat. Thank you guys so much for coming, and we'll see you guys later.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Yep.